The night the voice disappeared, the stadium went silent before the lights did. 30,000 people were on their feet. Phones up, breath held. Teylor Swift stood at the edge of the stage, hand to her ear, waiting for the sound that never came. The screen behind her froze on her face. A second passed. Then another. She smiled like nothing was wrong. That was the first lie of the night. For years, she had learned how to control a room. A look, a pause, a lyric that landed like a confession. This tour was supposed to be untouchable. Sold out. Perfect. A celebration of survival. After a year, no one outside her circle truly understood. Backstage, the crew scrambled. Cables were checked. Signals rerouted. Engineers shouted over each other. The system was clean. No failure. No explanation. Teylor leaned toward the crowd and spoke without a mic. Her voice barely reached the first row. They cheered anyway. Inside, her chest tightened, because she recognized the silence. 3 weeks earlier, a sealed envelope had been slipped under her hotel door in Chicago. No return address. No stamp. Inside was a single page and a recording on a black USB drive. The page read, "If you sing it, they will hear what you buried." She never played the recording. She told herself it was a prank. Someone chasing relevance. Someone who didn't know her. But that night, standing under dead speakers, she remembered the weight of the envelope and the song she had removed from the setlist that morning. It was an unreleased track, written alone, never shared with her team. A song about a moment that had almost ended everything. The crowd began to murmur. Her band looked back at her, confused. A stage manager crossed his throat with his finger. "Cut. Abort." Teylor raised her hand. "No," she said quietly. Her lips formed the word before sound existed again. The lights flickered. A low hum crawled through the speakers. Not music, not feedback. A voice came through. Her voice. Older, tired, shaking. "I didn't tell anyone," the recording said. Teylor felt the blood drain from her face as the screen behind her went black. Because the voice wasn't from a studio. It was from a night she swore had never been recorded. She tried to breathe. The air tasted like metal and ozone. In that frozen second, memories pressed in. A locked dressing room years ago. A contract slid across the table. A promise made to protect someone else's name at the cost of her own truth. Fame had taught her discipline. Silence could be armor. Silence could also be a prison. The recording kept playing. "I chose the easier lie," the voice said. "I let them believe it was my fault." The crowd laughed nervously, thinking it was part of the show. A stunt, a teaser, a bold artistic choice. Only Teylor knew the timestamps in her bones. Only she knew who else had been in that room. Her manager's voice crackled in her in-ear. "Cut the feed. Now." She didn't move. Her fingers trembled. If she stepped back, the night would end. If she stayed, something buried would surface. She looked into the dark where the front row blurred into shadows. Somewhere in that sea were people who had defended her, and people who would turn the moment the truth sounded ugly. The voice on the speakers took a breath. A sound too intimate for a stadium. "I stayed quiet so the tour could live," it said. So the headlines wouldn't. Teylor closed her eyes, because she knew what came next. She knew the name that followed. A security guard near the pit raised his head. Someone in the control booth slammed a desk. The band stopped pretending. Teylor opened her eyes and saw the future split in two. One path led to applause and carefully managed damage. The other led to a truth she could never take back. Her heartbeat counted the seconds. 1, 2, 3. The voice returned, steady now. "It wasn't an accident," it said, "and it wasn't mine." A wave rolled through the crowd. Phones lifted higher. A chant tried to form and failed. Teylor stepped forward into white light. She could feel the heat on her skin. She could feel the old fear wake up. This was never supposed to be public. This was never supposed to be tonight. She whispered, barely moving her lips. "Who sent you?" The answer came without mercy. The recording said a name tied to power, a name tied to her rise. The light snapped off. Total darkness. And somewhere in the black, the recording kept playing. She stood alone, listening to her own past accuse the present. In the dark, she imagined the headlines forming. She imagined the calls she would never answer. She imagined the person who had waited years for this moment. The crowd roared, confused and hungry. Security lights flashed. Someone shouted her name from the wings. Teylor didn't move, because if she let the recording finish, the story would no longer belong to her. She remembered the night in the rain, the flash of cameras, the way the truth had been rewritten before sunrise. That lie had built an empire. That lie had paid salaries. That lie had followed her onto every stage. The recording paused, a deliberate pause, like it was waiting for her permission. Her jaw tightened, her hands clenched. The silence screamed louder than any song. The voice inhaled. Time stretched thin. Every light waited. Every secret pressed forward. The next words hovered, sharp and final. They would decide what the crowd believed. They would decide what she lost. They would decide what could never be undone. In that breath, her entire career balanced on a single name, and the stadium leaned closer, waiting for the truth to be spoken or destroyed. Right now, no escape, noted, unforgiven. The lights came back in fragments, not all at once. White beams sliced through the darkness like knives. The crowd was loud now, restless, electric. No one understood what they had heard, but everyone felt it mattered. Teylor Swift still stood at center stage. The recording resumed. It happened after the show. Her own voice said, "I was told it would disappear if I signed." A ripple moved through the audience. Some stopped cheering. Some stopped recording. Backstage, her manager was pale. He was already on his phone, whispering to lawyers who hadn't slept in years. The name echoed again in people's heads. Producers, executives, a man whose smile had once opened every door she walked through, a man who had called her kid when she was already carrying stadiums on her back. Teylor's pulse thudded in her ears. She remembered the hallway, the carpet too red, the air too warm, the way security suddenly looked the other way. The recording continued, calm and precise. They said the truth would cost more than silence. Her guitarist took a step toward her. "Is this real?" he mouthed. She didn't answer. The screen behind her flickered to life. Not a video. A contract. Blown up. Signatures circled in red. Her signature was there. Young. Slanted. Confident in a way she hadn't felt in years. Gasps rolled through the crowd. This wasn't a stunt anymore. This was evidence. The recording shifted tone. Angrier. Older. "They told me I could keep my career." The voice said, "if I kept my mouth shut." Teylor swallowed. Because that part was true. Too true. She had told herself it was temporary. That one day she'd tell the story on her terms. In a song. In a book. In a safer world. Instead, someone else was telling it for her. A new voice cut in. Not hers. A man's voice. Low. Familiar. Smiling through the words. "You're overthinking it," the voice said. "This is how the industry works." The crowd reacted instantly. Boos. Shouts. Confusion. Some recognized the cadence. Some didn't want to. Teylor felt her knees weaken. That voice was never supposed to exist outside her memory. The band stopped playing entirely. The show was gone. This was something else now. Security moved toward the sound booth. Too late. The man's voice continued. "No one will believe you. They'll believe the story we give them." The screen changed again. Dates. Payments. Non-disclosure clauses. Each one landed like a blow. Teylor's manager finally ran onto the stage. He grabbed her arm hard. "We can still stop this," he hissed. "Say it's art. Say it's fiction." She looked at him. For the first time, she saw fear behind her professionalism. Fear of lawsuits. Fear of collapse. Fear of her telling the truth out loud. The recording paused. A woman screamed from the crowd, "Let it play." Others joined in. A chant formed, broken but growing. Teylor pulled her arm free. She stepped closer to the microphone. That still wasn't live. Her voice wouldn't carry. But her choice would. The recording resumed. There was a witness, her voice said. Someone who saw everything. The stadium froze. Taylor's breath caught. Because that was new. She had never told anyone about the witness. Not her team. Not her therapist. Not even herself. Fully. The screen showed a blurred photo. A backstage badge. A date stamp. The voice continued. They promised to protect him if I stayed quiet. Taylor's thoughts raced. The witness had vanished weeks after that night. A quiet exit. A different career. A different name. She had assumed they chose silence. Now she wasn't sure. Her manager shook his head. This wasn't the plan, he said. Taylor stared at the screen. Someone else had the rest of the story. Someone patient. Someone angry. The recording reached its final line. They're ready to speak now. The crowd erupted. Questions collided with outrage. Phones shook in trembling hands. Taylor felt something shift inside her. Not fear. Not yet. Something heavier. Responsibility. She took a step forward. If the witness spoke, the lie would shatter. If they didn't, the blame would land on her alone. The recording clicked off. Silence crashed down again. Taylor leaned into the dead microphone and whispered, "Where are you?" The screen lit up one last time. A live call request appeared. Incoming. From a blocked number. And somewhere beyond the stage lights, someone waited for her to answer. The phone kept ringing. Not loud. Not urgent. Just steady. Relentless. Taylor stared at the screen as if it might blink first. Her manager shook his head slowly. "This ends careers," he said. Not angry. Not threatening. Certain. The crowd had gone quiet in a way that felt dangerous. Not silence from confusion. Silence from attention. She remembered being 17, being told talent was enough, that survival required compliance, that there were doors you only walked through once. The call timer ticked. Her heart pounded against her ribs. If she answered, she lost control. If she didn't, she confirmed everything. She reached the phone. The stadium inhaled. She accepted the call. A breath came through the speakers. Shaky. Human. "It's me," a voice said. Not the man. Not the executive. A woman. Taylor's vision blurred. "You weren't supposed to find me," the woman continued. "They told me you'd moved on." Taylor closed her eyes. "I tried," the voice said. "I tried to forget that night. But every time I saw you on stage, I remembered why I stayed." The screen behind Taylor showed nothing now, just black, as if the story no longer needed visuals. The woman spoke again. "They lied to both of us." Taylor's hands trembled. "What do you want?" she asked softly. The crowd didn't hear the words, but they felt the weight behind them. "I want it to stop," the woman said. "I want the truth on record. Not whispered, not buried in lyrics." A murmur rolled through the stadium. Taylor felt the old instinct rise. Protect the machine. Protect the tour. Protect everyone who depended on her silence. Then another instinct surfaced. Quieter. Older. Protect the truth. Her manager leaned close. "Hang up," he said. "Please." The woman on the line exhaled. "They're already calling lawyers," she said. "They're already rewriting this." Taylor looked out at the crowd. Faces. Real faces. Not numbers. Not charts. She thought of the nights she'd sung about owning your story, taking back your name, standing in your scars. This was the moment those words demanded payment. "Say it," Taylor said into the phone, her voice steady now. "Say it here." The woman hesitated, long enough to hurt. Then she spoke. "He locked the door," she said. "And when I tried to leave, he laughed." A sound broke from the crowd. Not a cheer. Not a boo. Recognition. Taylor felt something inside her crack open. The woman continued, faster now. "They blamed you. Said you'd invited it. Said I was disposable." Taylor felt tears burn, but she didn't let them fall. This was no longer about her reputation. It never had been. The phone line crackled. Another voice cut in. "Mail. Cold. That's enough," it said. The stadium erupted. The woman gasped. "He's on the line." she whispered. Taylor's blood ran cold. The man spoke again. Measured, controlled. You're making a mistake, he said. This will destroy everything you built. Taylor stepped closer to the edge of the stage. Her voice finally found a microphone as the system came back online. Clear, unfiltered. No, she said. It will show what it was built on. The man laughed quietly. You think they'll stay when you're exposed? She looked at the crowd, at the phone still raised, at the silence that had chosen her. I think, she said, they deserve the truth. Security surged toward the stage. Hands reached. Orders were shouted. The woman's voice broke through one last time. Don't let them mute you, she said. Taylor tightened her grip on the mic. The lights flared brighter than before. Blinding. Final. She took a breath and spoke the name herself. The name landed like glass. Sharp, irreversible. For a fraction of a second, nothing happened. Then the stadium exploded. Shouts collided with screams. Phones shook. Security froze, unsure who they were supposed to protect now. Taylor stood still. She felt lighter and terrified. The man's voice vanished from the line. Disconnected. Gone. The woman was still there, breathing hard. You did it, she said. Not relieved. Amazed. Taylor closed her eyes. I'm sorry it took me this long, she said. The woman didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was calm. Just don't take it back. Taylor hung up. The microphone hummed in her hand. Alive. Honest. She looked out at the crowd one last time that night. Not as an icon. Not as a brand. As a person who had made a choice. The show never resumed. By morning, the world had split. Statements were issued. Denials followed. Then silence. Sponsors paused. Contracts were reviewed. Tours were under reconsideration. The name she spoke disappeared from websites within hours. Then from press releases. Then from offices. But truth does not erase itself so easily. The woman testified 2 days later. Not on a stage. In a room with no cameras. Taylor wasn't there. She didn't need to be. Her songs vanished from some playlists. Rose higher on others. People argued. Defended. Attacked. She stayed quiet. For the first time, silence was no longer a lie. Weeks later, she walked alone into an empty rehearsal space. No cameras. No crew. Just a piano. She played the song she had once buried. Not perfectly. Not safely. When she finished, the room didn't applaud. It didn't need to. That night did not end her career. It changed its shape. Some doors closed forever. Others opened slowly, cautiously, honestly. And somewhere, a young artist watched the footage from that stadium. Saw the moment fear lost. They learned something no contract could teach. That telling the truth costs everything. And hiding it costs more. The stage lights eventually turned back on. But they never looked the same. Neither did she.